The most common question I get asked on my videos is how do I advertise my game? Or how many ad credits do I spend and how many days do I run the ad? Well, today I'm going to give you all the secrets and show you exactly how to make your game blow up with Roblox's advertising system. Because who doesn't want to make a bag like Grow Garden or Brain Rot game number 67 or whatever's popular right now? Let's get started. First of all, you want to be using Roblox's new ad system. It's cheaper and more effective than the old one. So to get there, you just go to the Creator Hub and click on the Ads tab, and you're immediately in the new Ads Manager. And from here, you're just going to click Create Ad, and there's only one option right now, so that's what you're going to do, and make sure you choose your game. And then this is where things get complicated, because a lot of people want to know how much they should spend, how many days they should run the ad, and who they should target as their audience. Well, for audience, just leave it on all players. Don't change anything. You're probably advertising a new game, and thus you don't really want to target anybody specific, just all players. Then we get to the budget, and people are always asking me, how much do I spend on my ad? But it's a little more complicated than that. So let me explain a little bit. See, there's not one universal answer to how much you should spend advertising your game. The truth is you should really spend as much as possible to reach as many people as possible. But if you're anything like me, you don't have $1 million to advertise a game, so you want to do it the cheapest and most effective way. But here's the thing. The cheapest way to advertise your game is by making a game that lots of people want to play. The reason why I say it differs from game to game is because, think of it this way. If you make a new Brain Rot game, there's millions of people who want to play that. So you don't have to reach as many people before it starts to pick up. But if you make a realistic FPS game, well, there's not a lot of people interested in that, so it's going to cost you a lot more to reach the right people. So, like I said, it depends on what game you make that determines how much money you have to spend to advertise it. So let me show you some of my games that I've advertised. This one, it cost me just over $50 to advertise, and the click-through rate here was very high, which means that the thumbnails are good and or that the audience for it is pretty big. So it should be pretty cheap to advertise this game, and it was, only $50, and this game has 1.7 million visits. That $50 worth only gained the game about 10,000, maybe 20,000 visits, and then it picked up on the algorithm because it's a game that a lot of people want to play. And then here I have a troll tower game, one of those towers with some troll stuff. I know, very self-explanatory. This one also cost under $50, and one of these ads even had a higher click-through rate. And this game went on to get 1.1 million visits. So these two games specifically were something that had a very big audience and thus didn't cost a lot of money to advertise. If you're young and don't have a job, $50 probably is a little bit. But that's just how it is. You gotta figure out how to make the money if you want to advertise your game. Then we have, I'll show you an example of something that didn't work out. This game, which was based on a trend at the time, I spent almost $200 advertising it, and although the click-through rate was good, it did pick up on the algorithm some, but it died at 40,000 visits, because ultimately people just didn't like it enough. So, you see something like this that has less interest in it costs more money to advertise. And then we'll go to a recent game I made. This one cost me $60 on the dot, and it got 241,000 visits. So the amount of visits your game ends up with isn't fully determined on how much you it's not at all determined by how much you spend advertising it. It's completely determined by how good the game is. And how good the game is what determines how much you have to spend. So when you make good games like this, you don't have to spend that much money. If you spend $200 like I did on this game, it's probably not that good. Or it could be good and just has a smaller audience, like I mentioned a realistic FPS game would. I'll show you a couple more examples. Here's another one. This one cost me about $60 to advertise, and it got over 1 million visits, so that's also good. And then one more tower game, and this one cost me just $30 to advertise, and it got almost 500,000 visits. So the one that spent me the most money was the one that got the least visits, and the ones that I spent the least money got the most visits. So it's all about having a good game first. If you have a good game that a lot of people want to play, then it's going to be really cheap to advertise. But if you make something that people aren't really interested in, it's going to cost you a lot of money, and even then it might not work out. Which means my answer to how much should I spend advertising my game is that if you make a game you think would be popular, like a brain rot game or some new high quality simple gameplay loop like Fish, then you can probably spend about $50 to $100 USD to advertise it. Don't take that as the end all be all though. Every game is unique and it's never the same, but that's my general answer. And if you make a realistic FPS game, well, don't do that please. Nobody's gonna play it. As much as you guys like to hate on the top Roblox games for being quote-unquote low quality, they are the most popular games in the world for a reason. So if you make a high quality, complex game, don't be surprised when it fails or it costs you $10,000 to advertise, because the audience for that is very small. Quick stop before we get into how long you should run your ad for. If you like this unscripted real dev advice, let me know in the comments and subscribe to the channel. I also make some entertainment based videos, but if you want more real advice and tips, tell me. Anyways, let's talk about how long you should run your ads. Now this one's hard. First of all, before you do any advertising on your game, I would actually like to suggest that you run an ad with the minimum possible money/ad credits. I think one ad credit is equal to $1, but don't quote me on that. Before I ever fully advertise a game, I run a small ad to test the CTR, which means click-through rate of the icon/thumbnail on the game. Ideally, you want to make sure it has a good CTR because that means lots of people click on it, and it'll be cheaper later when you spend a lot to advertise. I personally make my thumbnails in an off-brand Photoshop by taking inspiration from other games. So if you want a tutorial on that, let me know. But let's go in here and I'll show you kind of my thought process and what you should do. It's going to ask you for a daily budget and a lifetime budget. You should always do daily budget. Never, ever, ever do lifetime. Because the goal of your ad is to 1, get players in your game, and 2, try to get people to play consistently. Roblox loves consistency and retention, so you want to have a normal, good, consistent flow of players every single day that your ad is running, because Roblox will see that consistency in player count and hopefully give it the algorithm love that you want. So always do daily budget. Then, no matter how much money you do a day, $16 a day is kind of crazy, honestly. Like you saw with my ads, I only spent upwards of $50 on some of them for the entire thing. So I would usually do custom and make it like $5 to $8 a day. And then ideally after that, the answer to how many days you should run your ad for, well, as many as you can. Because again, Roblox loves that consistency. So I'd recommend that you do it at least 7 days at the very minimum. But if you can, you definitely want to do more than that. More than 10 even, but that's starting to push it a little bit. So if you have a really good game, you think, like a lot of mine, and you believe it may cost you about $50, then you could do $5 a day for 10 days, and that's a pretty decent starting line. Now, like I said, most games aren't going to cost you only $50 to advertise. I make games that I know people are going to play, and that's why they're cheap. So you have to do that too. That's the first rule, is make a game that people want to play. But that's basically it. You want to run your ad for as long as possible. You want to spend as much money as you can, but the better game you have, the less it'll cost. And now they actually do thumbnails instead of icons. So like I just said a minute ago, you want to run a small ad, literally just a couple, like if you could, a couple dollars. It's hard now. But if you're going to run your test ad, you'll do a lifetime budget and just make it whatever the minimum is. Holy moly, it's $25. Maybe you don't even run test ads anymore, because that's a lot. But if you are going to test out your thumbnails, do a lifetime budget of $25 and choose your thumbnails here. When you do your actual ad, I think you can choose all your thumbnails. It should direct all of the attention to the best performing thumbnail. So just make a bunch of thumbnails and put them all in the ad, and it'll basically push the best one out to people. And then that's how you know which one to select on your game to keep as the main thing that is shown to people on the home recommendation page. But that's it. How big the audience for your game is and how good it is are what determines how much you need to spend. And you really want to run your ad for at least a week, if not more. Anyways, like and subscribe so I can feed my Doge.